And an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, I was out of tone. But it wasn't because I didn't know, no. I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. I hope that you're having the time of your life. Think why. That's my only advice.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are well. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. Excuse me and taking a few minutes to spend with me here on SML TV. Thank you, guys. Hope you slept well last night. You know, a few shout outs before we begin. You know, we've got Bo Allen. Bo Allen, one of our regulars here on SML TV. Thank you so much. Victor. Hello, Victor. Good morning, Mr. Morris. Somebody was watching us from Australia. Need to pay attention. Bright says need to pay attention. Sounds interesting. Seems interesting. Watching from Baxter is watching us from Perth in Western Australia. You know, I heard that Australia is the farthest place that you could ever fly to. This is what I hear. I hear it's farther than China. Is that true? I hear this. Guys, thank you so much for being with me. You know, the other night, well, it wasn't the other night, it was last night. Last night, I was watching the Grammys. And I realized, sitting there, just how much the Grammys have changed. You know, when I was a kid, we used to watch the Grammys, and you enjoyed watching the Grammys. You know, it was a great time. Now, when you watch the Grammys, you're upset. I saw this one performance. I don't know who this guy is. His name is Sam Smith. Who has a stage name, Sam Smith? Sam Smith sounds like a plumber from Delaware. Sam Smith is some kind of performer. He was up there with a person I thought was a woman. Well, it turns out she wasn't a woman. She's transgender. What's going on now with people's identity? Whatever happened to a man being a woman? I mean, a man being a man and a woman being a woman. Whatever happened to that? You know, everything's blurry now. There are no straight lines. You know, nothing is straightforward. Everything is linear. Is that the right word? No. It's the strangest thing. You know, growing up, we used to listen to Lionel Richie, the Commodores, Sting. You know, Hootie and the Blowfish. Not anymore. Now you got there was this before. I think he was singing some song. It seemed to me like some type of devilish performance. I mean, he was up there dressed in red, and I think the title of the song was called Unholy. And he just went on, and I'm thinking, what is going on with the Grammys? You know, and I also found out that Beyonce won her 32nd Grammy. Who wins 32 Grammys? You know, when I was a kid growing up, I mean, Michael Jackson won 15 Grammys. And in those days, that was huge, or as Donald Trump would say, huge. It was huge. But, you know, they're handing out Grammys like they're handing out cakes. Anyway, Well, hey guys, I wanted to come on here very quickly and just share a few thoughts with you. And we're going to talk about former President Lungu, uh, Andrew Edjimadu, who many of you refer to as Seer. I call him Seer Nothing, because really that's what he is. And lastly, we're going to talk about Miles. Let's begin. First of all, I wanted to share this with you this is information that I think every Zambian should know. If you do not know this, then you're not with the program. Okay, you're not you're not in the loop, as it were. On August the 26th of 2021, former President Lungu wrote a letter to the Secretary to Cabinet, Mr. Mitty, Mr. Simon Mitty, who many of you know. And in that letter, President Lungu wrote, and I quote, okay, this is a direct quote, okay, I'm not paraphrasing, okay, I'm not skirting around the issue, okay, I'm not trying to dilute anything, word for word, verbatim, because that's what verbatim means. Verbatim means word for word. Verbatim, President Lungu said, and I quote, in view of the clear provisions of the former president laws of Zambia, I hereby write to inform you that I have decided to resign as PF president and indeed from active politics. End quote. Edgar Chagwalungu. Okay, now this was on the 26th. The moment the secretary to the cabinet received this letter, President Lungu's benefits and perks began to kick in. Do you guys have any idea how great it is to be a former president? Do you know what you get? Let me tell you what you get. Let me explain to you what you get. The moment you become a former head of state and you resign from active politics, because the prerequisite is that you have to resign from active politics. You cannot be an active political participant and expect to reap the benefits of your benefits. It doesn't work that way. You have to give up something. You can't have your cake and eat it too, okay? You can't have the yin and the yang. You know, it's either one or the other. You choose. And it's entirely up to you. And this is the great thing about this law, okay? It's entirely up to you. But when you do choose as a former head of state, when you say to yourself, you know what, I have run my race, I have served the people of Zambia as best as I can, I may not have done everything that I promised, but oh, I came close. I bettered the Zambian people's lives. We are better off now than when we were when I took over. If a president can say that, walk off the pitch and retire in the shelter and the pavilion of the laws provided thereby, you begin to reap the benefits. Number one, do you know that when a former president hangs his hat up, you know that phrase, hangs his hat up or hangs his gloves, gives up politics, walks away? Do you know that a former president, for the rest of his life or her life, they receive 80% of the current president's salary? 80%. Every single month. Number one. Number two, your medicals, your medical bills taken care of. You don't have to worry. You don't have to feel like you want something in terms of your health because it's all taken care of. Thirdly, the house that you live in. Former President Lungu lives in a house that the government pays for. He doesn't have to pay for anything. He doesn't. Why? Because he's the former head of state, and he deserves that. Because that's just how we roll as Zambians. You know, we take care of our former presidents. Zambia is not a country that that throws our former presidents aside. No. There was a time when that was, but not anymore. This is a new dispensation. We take care of our former heads of state because that's the way it's supposed to be. And it's the right thing to do. So here it is. Your medicals are taken care of. Transportation and fuel security, honey, taken care of. You don't have to worry about a thing. Every year, once a year, you're sent on holiday. Any destination in the world, honey. Any. You can go to the Maldives. You can go to Paris. You can go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can go to South Alabama. You know where South Alabama is? You can go to Bogalusa. You can go to Perth, Australia. You can go to Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, Missouri. Honey, you can go to Mazabuga, Madagascar. You can go to Haiti. You can go to the Dominican Republic. Honey, you can go to the islands of the sea. You can even go to the Seychelles. It's all up to you. The government will pay for it. That's how we roll. Now, here's the trouble with all of this, is that we are beginning to hear the bleating of the sheep. Okay, now, if you're not a Christian and you don't have a Bible-based background, you won't know what the HE I'm talking about. The bleating of the sheep, Chinese whispers. People talking in the periphery. When we begin to hear the bleating of the sheep, the Old Testament calls it the bleating of the sheep. Not bleating, bleating, the sound of the sheep. We're beginning to hear that President Lungu, former President Lungu, is hinting, or he's being influenced into thinking that he can come back. Now, here's the problem I have with that. When you've served 7 years, you've served the people of Zambia for 7 years, and on top of that, you had no idea that you would become president, but you served. The Zambian people gave you two opportunities, two separate opportunities where you were sworn in twice. You have reached a stage in your life that many of us wish to be in terms of age. God has blessed you with longevity. And then here it is, you've got everything on a silver plate. Not that you don't deserve it, you do deserve it because you worked for it. And the Zambian people gave you that opportunity to serve. Why would you want to throw all that away simply because people like Nakachinda, people like Given Luwinda, people like Bowman, for goodness sake? Bowman. We got Bowman on the fringes of this. You're listening to these. Not that Valuinda's a despot, okay? Valuinda vafumienpo when I say despot, but Nakachinda na Bowman bena kutumwaba bikapo as despots. Valuinda vafumienpo. Because I happen to like Mr. Luwinda. I think he's a good guy, okay? But why would you listen to these bottom feeders when you have served? I'll tell you why. Because the people around the former president are not thinking about him. They are thinking about themselves. Ooh, honey, that's what it is right there. It's got nothing to do with the Zambian people missing the former head of state. Heck, Americans miss Obama. But nobody's saying to Obama, Obama, we miss you so much, we want you to come back. What the heck is all that about? Your time has passed. In the words of Beyonce, who just won 32 Grammys, for goodness sake, to the left, to the left, to the left, you've done your part. Step aside, step aside, step aside. Let somebody else take over. Because that's the way we roll. Here it is. You are listening to these despots. Listen, and you've got a registered sex offender in the name of Chilufya who's giving the former head of state tips. What kind of world are we living in? Guys, what is this? And I blame you. I blame you, Mr. Lungu, Mr. Former President. I blame you, sir. How in the world are you going to allow a bottom feeder, as a registered sex offender like Chilufya to get anywhere close to you? Why would you do that? Why is that? I'm trying to wrap my brain around that concept. And I'll tell you, sir, I'm not getting it. It's not, it's not gelling. And you know that old saying, if it's not gelling, then it's not jello. Mr. Former President, you did your term, the terms. You ran your race. You did your best. But it's time to move on. Let other people step in. Don't listen to these jokers. Yeah, I am. Yeah, Antoine, camera su battery now. I didn't charge the thing yesterday. Battery. Anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you. You ran your race. You did your best. It's time to move on. We love you, but it's time to move on. God bless. Bye.